This is Jenny from crafttestdummies.com, and hello, welcome. I'm getting set up here because today I want to share with you some napkin techniques, because that feeds into our one little tag challenge.
So what I'm going to do now is actually speed up the video so that we can watch twice as much in half the time, and I think I can still get all the instructions in for you. So one of the things you need to know is that each napkin has 3 plies. The top is the printed layer, and then there are usually 2 layers of just white, and they're all bonded together. So you'll want to be very careful and separate them. You'll notice that the top layer is very tissue thin, it's very transparent, and it tears easily, so be careful. Now this is a tag I've run through the Xyron machine, and that enables me to put down the top of the napkin without any wrinkling whatsoever. Now you could use Wonder Under if you want, or any other dry adhesive, but this just keeps it from wrinkling. Now we'll do a technique that has wrinkles later, but right now we want this smooth look. What I also did was I cut out a separate motif, and I used that little starfish. I cut an extra one out of a napkin and trimmed just around it and separated the plies very carefully, or else you're going to rip it. And now what I'm going to do is the first technique I'm going to give you is creating a 3D effect. So here I'm using my hot glue gun, and I'm just going to fill in that starfish area with hot glue. And you can use whatever color hot glue sticks you have. It doesn't really matter if it's high temp or low temp, but what you're going to do is work quickly, fill in the area, and then tap in that motif that you cut out. And as it sits down on it and kind of grabs before it cools, and it will now be like a 3D pop-up. Now, of course, you could do a foam, but I really think that using the hot glue is kind of a clever idea. Now it's 3-dimensional and popped up, and it's just a fun thing that you can do with napkins. You could do as many motifs of your napkin as you would like. Now for the second technique, what I'm going to do is create a sugared effect, and that is by using glitter. So I have Versamark re-inker here on my table. I'm going to ink up my brayer, and then I'm going to go right over the tag. Now if you had a Versamark pad, you could just tap it all over. I didn't have one handy, but I had the inker. So there are many ways to apply your Versamark. So you're also going to need some heat and stick powder. Now this is the Ranger's sticky powder, and this is like an embossing powder, but when you sprinkle it on and then heat it, it becomes sticky. There are a lot of different brands, so you don't have to use Ranger. This is just what I had. But as you can see, I've completely covered the tag with the heat and bond powder, and now what I'll do is actually use my heat gun and melt it down. If you don't work with embossing powders, I have to tell you, play with them. They're so much fun. I love to watch the magic as it melts and goes clear. It's just a fun thing. Now when it's all good and sticky, you're going to sprinkle it liberally with a clear or a frosted type of glitter. So this has a little bit of iridescent to it. Some people like to use something called dazzling diamonds, but really the clear glitter is what makes it super amazing. And I think the best idea for this is to then go back over it and heat it one more time. It'll just make that powder stickier just for a minute so that it really does grab the glitter. But what you're left with after you're all done is this kind of sugared glittery effect. It's wonderful with napkins. People have been doing this for a long time. I didn't invent it, but I just wanted to bring it back up to your awareness because it's a beautiful way to use your napkins. All right, so moving on, this next technique we're going to do, I'm calling faux mulberry paper, or it could be called faux leather. But the idea is that we're actually going to use the white part of the napkins now. So again, remember that they're often 3-ply, so you'll want to separate the different layers. And here I'm just using a matte Mod Podge. You could use matte medium, white glue, doesn't matter. Put a nice thick layer down on top of a tag or a paper or a canvas, whatever your substrate is, and then separate one layer of your napkin. As you can see me struggling a little bit here, it's bound along the side, so you have to be careful. But what you're going to do is when you put it down, kind of put the napkin down and then kind of scrunch it up gently as you go. Now, depending on how much wrinkling you want, I think that there is too much. I don't want it folding back all over itself, but I want that kind of streaky look the way Mulberry paper has. And then you can see me here, I'm adding some more matte Mod Podge on top so that it, kind of seals it down. Now, here's the fun part. Use your sprays, inks, dyes, or watercolors and just go to town adding some color. And what's really fun is to put down the color and then add some just plain water, because what happens then is it makes it kind of move around and dilute, and it will actually kind of suck into all of those little wrinkles. And if you pick it up and move it around a little bit, it will bleed and just create the most wonderful, wonderful textures. Now, if you wanted to do this to look like leather, you would probably just use like walnut ink or a little bit of thinned out brown acrylic paint. But I think it's marvelous with these bright, vibrant colors. Now, all you have to do is let it dry and it's ready to go. All right, here we go. This is the last technique and I'm calling it faux tooled leather. What I have here is a piece of craft foam that I've run through the Xyron and then die cut with an intricate die. Now you could use craft foam, you could use Faux. I'll put that name on the screen so you can see it. But what I'm going to do is after I go ahead and cut out my fancy die cut, I am just going to use some of this matte Mod Podge, or again, white glue is fine, and I'm going to apply the napkins, or you could use tissue paper, right over the top. And what I want to do is kind of use this pouncing motion and get the glue and the tissue or napkin into all of those little nooks and crannies. And for this technique, I really like 2 to 3 layers for it to really kind of look like leather. You're not really concerned about getting all of the wrinkles out. If it wrinkles up a little bit, that's just fine. But just keep adding layers of glue and napkin until it starts to fill in but not obscure your pattern. And you'll know how much is enough. So once you've got all your layers on and moderately dry, you can go ahead and paint. Now I'm using the acrylic silks paints here, which have a really high like mica content. So you'll see a lot of metallic shine. And I try to use my paintbrush, but my finger just works better, to be perfectly honest. So I add a little bit of water to thin it down, and then I just use my finger and work in the paint, again, kind of into those nooks and crannies. And you can use a little dry brushing technique or a different color on top to bring out all of those highlights. And really, I recommend once it's dry, go ahead and hit it again with the top of like a stamp pad to really bring out all of that texture. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this Periscope rebroadcast. Make sure you follow me at Craft Test Dummy over there so you can see them live and participate. Thanks for watching and have a crafty day.